Hi guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com with another quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements for the week ending October 29th, 2018. This is episode number 171 of the recap, and the first of the news this week comes from COG Games regarding Kurtzpel. Remember this one? Well, it's finally making progress, and as of this last week, they opened itself up to closed beta registrations. No word on when closed beta actually begins, but now they're taking registrations, and I expect it'll be happening sometime in the next 3 months or so. Kurtzpel, for those that don't know, is a third-person anime-inspired action MMORPG, and will likely play a lot like Grand Chase or Elsword, in that most gameplay will take place in instance dungeons. The game also has a rating system where players take on giant enemies, similar to games like Dauntless and Monster Hunter World. There isn't too much info about this one just yet, but now that they're taking closed beta invites, it means they're making some progress towards release, and we'll learn more in the coming months. Up next, Lord of the Rings Online is joining the progression server bandwagon with the announcement of a new legendary server, which despite the fancy name is just a progression server. It'll give players a chance to experience the now 11-year-old MMORPG from the very beginning, and it's set to go live this fall with content from the original Shadows of Angmar version. Additional expansions are set to launch every 4 months or so, which will keep the progression server feeling fresh. Keep in mind though, this isn't a vanilla server. All the UI and graphic updates of the current version will be available on the legendary server, and all classes and races will be available on day one. It'll also feature the existing class/skill system of the current game rather than the old school one. And similar to other MMOs, the legendary server on Lord of the Rings Online will only be available to subscribers. It's too bad that they aren't going to be going with the full progression/classic server though. Still, I expect this will do pretty well. Next up, we finally have some news on Black Desert Online on the Xbox One. It'll be launching an open beta on November 8th and will run until November 12th. Weird that open beta only runs for 4 days, but I suspect that a full release for Xbox will happen before the end of the year. Black Desert Online was announced for Xbox back in June of 2017 with the reveal of the Xbox One X, so it's about time that we're finally getting it. No word on release outside of Xbox just yet, and it's currently being marketed as an Xbox exclusive, but after a year or so down the line, it may launch on other consoles, and given that Black Desert has action-oriented gameplay, I think it'll do really well on consoles, so I expect it'll be a success on the Xbox One. Also in console MMO news, the popular MMORPG Elder Scrolls Online will not be coming to Nintendo Switch because ESO is simply too large. ESO's creative director Matt Ferrar said, "We thought about Switch, but ESO is an enormous game and it just will not work." So ESO takes around 75 gigs of space according to the game's Steam page, and Nintendo Switch has a maximum capacity of about 32 GB, so the numbers just don't make sense. It's kind of a big deal though because Nintendo Switch has been such a hot seller lately, and the Elder Scrolls Online has actually been a big hit on consoles. In fact, the game's player base is divided pretty equally right now amongst PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, with a third on each platform, but too bad it's not coming on the Switch. Up next, while ESO isn't coming to the Switch, Ark Survival Evolved is, which is pretty surprising because Ark is also a huge game. Steam says it requires 60 GB, and users with mods have reported that the game takes up over 100 GB of space on their end. The Switch version of Ark is launching worldwide on November 30th and will feature the full Ark experience. I'm pretty sure there's no crossplay though because other platforms have access to DLC and mods which simply don't fit on the Switch version. There's no official word on whether there'll be crossplay or not, but I'm betting there isn't going to be because we haven't seen crossplay on other platforms anyway, and I doubt Nintendo Switch will be the first one to have it. Moving right along, Bless Online is officially out of early access and is now free to play on Steam. While NeoWiz seems optimistic about the free to play launch, given just how poorly the game runs, I expect many of the people playing the game for the first time now that it's free will quickly quit once they realize just how awful it runs. NeoWiz, on the other hand, seems to be pressing ahead with updates. Besides simply going free to play, the game's level cap has been raised to 50, and new raids and dungeons are coming in the near future. Player base wise, the game averages a concurrent player base of about 2,800 right now, which is a huge jump from the 400 it had just before it went free to play. But give it a month or two, I think we'll be below 700 once again, simply because Bless just runs so poorly. Next up, we have some industry news. Remember we talked about Gamigo raising 32 million euros a couple of weeks ago? Well, now we know what all that money was for. Gamigo acquired the US developer and publisher Trion Worlds this last week, taking control of the 5 games offered by Trion. Details of the transaction aren't public, but Gamigo did suggest that they'll be closing down some of the games. And if I had to guess, both Atlas Reactor and Defiance 2050 are on the chopping block, as Trove, Arcade, and Rift seem to be doing pretty decently. This news comes after Gamigo already bought Area Games. So now Gamigo will own Area Games, Trion Worlds, and the Gamigo portal, making them one of the biggest free-to-play publishers in the world. Up next, also in industry news, Epic Games, the developer behind Fortnite and the Unreal Engine, is now worth $15 billion. This was confirmed this last week after the company raised $1.25 billion at a $15 billion valuation. And just to give some context on that number, all of Square Enix is worth about $4.3 billion, Nexon is worth $10 billion, and Activision Blizzard is worth $53 billion. Fortnite's success has also been absolutely incredible, and once it launches in China, I expect it'll continue to grow. I bet Tencent is mega happy and counting their shekels, as they own 40% of Epic Games and made a huge profit on their investment. Next up, InMass Entertainment, the company behind Terra, isn't giving up on their publishing dreams. They announced this week that they'll be publishing the post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy dungeon brawler Breach, which will be coming to the InMass launcher. I think it'll be launching as a free-to-play title sometime in 2019. So far, none of other InMass's titles have done well besides Terra, but perhaps Breach will change that, but we'll have to wait and see. Not too much is known about this game, but you can see some gameplay in the background. It looks like an action MMORPG, and I think it might be Instance Dungeon Persistent Hub, but we'll have to wait and see when it launches. Next, an update for Lineage 2 Revolution just dropped this last week, and it's a big one, and introduced a new playable race to the game called the Orcs. The update also adds the new Evento territory with 3 new regions, a new level cap of 320, quest expansions, new monsters, new monster cores, and much more. And while Lineage 2 Revolution isn't my cup of tea, it is really popular for some reason. It does feature the autoplay you've seen in a lot of other mobile MMORPGs, and it's still one of the more polished mobile MMORPGs out there. So if you're bored and want to play an autoplay game, maybe give this one a try. Next, that's some pretty big news for Richard Garriott's Shroud of the Avatar. The game launched release 59 this week, which introduced a ton of stuff to the game, but most importantly, made it more free to play. Pretty much all the free to play restrictions in the game before are now removed, so you can go through the entire game story, trade, and own houses in the game without any kind of restrictions. Basically, it's entirely free to play now. Given how tiny the game's player base has been, it's a much needed move to boost the game's numbers. It's currently averaging a bit over 126 players on Steam alone, probably has a few more off Steam as well. But if you want to play Shroud of the Avatar, now's a good time to play because it's free to play. Next and last bit of news this week comes from DC Universe Online, the action-oriented superhero MMORPG from Daybreak Games. It'll be launching its massive Atlantis update on November 8th, and it'll be about as big as the game's Gotham City DLC. Atlantis will be accessible by everyone level 10 or higher, and will feature a rich story, a whole new area with new enemies, quests, items, and more. Player base wise, the game averages about 500 or so users online on Steam at any given time, but probably has more users off Steam as well. The game is also available on PS4 as well as the Xbox. Anyway guys, that's it for MMO News this week. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the podcast. Later guys.